Howdy folks, Hellcracks here. Well, this could be kind of like the Thoughts from the Inner Sphere episode, let's say 81.5. It's not really an episode per se, but it's going to be kind of like a public service announcement or a tactical rundown. I've been waiting around for a while to get the new armored box set, just mostly for the miniatures. And because I've been playing this game forever today and I already have all these miniatures in my collection, or multiples of them, or lances of them, of each type. So I'm just going to look at this from the aspect of, let's say you and your friend, you both see it on this, like, hey, what is this Battletech game? And you both go out and, let's say, either go together, buy a box, or you both buy a box yourself. So now you're sitting there looking at 8 miniatures, and what do I do with them? What can they do? And so you kind of sit there and you glom over the data sheets for them, and you're like, okay, this got a medium laser, this has a large laser, this has an LRM, and you're just like, okay, it's like, oh yeah, this thing's called a Thunderbolt, or the T-Bolt as we like to call it. And it's like, I always thought that the Thunderbolt needs its own theme song. You know, it's like from AC/DC, Thunderstruck. Every time it goes across the board, you know, music goes playing out in the background. Thunderstruck. Hey, it's just something that just pops in my head. What can you say? So you're sitting there, you're looking at them, and you're going, what do these things do? Now, if you've been following my channel for any bit of time, now if you're new to my channel, I've covered all these mechs that are in this box set in kind of a rundown, my thoughts from an Inner Sphere, one of the episodes throughout the last year and a half or so. And I'm already up to 80-something episodes just dealing with Battletech alone. So if you want to go back, re-look at those, and it'll give you a rundown which of these mechs can do short range, long range, how I like to use them for dealing with heat, and all that. So that kind of a real good tactical rundown of what their capabilities are and what they can do. Now I'm just going to be looking at this video as kind of like, what do you want to do with them? Kind of put them into groups of what they kind of the roles are on the battlefield, or at least how I see the roles are. So if I picked up this box and I've been playing this game for a long time, 30-something years, I look at it and go, okay, I automatically put this mech goes here, this mech goes in this group, this is what I want to use for it tactically, this is how I'm going to try to just maneuver around and deal with my enemies. Now let's just look at them. Now you have the Locust and the Commando. I look at those two as purely 100% scouts. They are fairly fast, they're 6'9", you know, 8, 12, whatever. They have good speed. They can, in this box set, just this box set, they're pretty decent. They can get up and go, and they have light armor, and these are the mechs that you want to move fast as possible. Keep them moving. Don't just sit there and park yourself, because you're going to get them killed because they don't have the armor to stand up in a brawl. So those are the two that are the eyes and ears of the box set. They're the ones that you're going to be running around, hitting flanks, trying to dig things out by moving fast, getting behind other mechs and shooting things in the rear, forcing your opponents to try to reassess what's going on here. Now, when you look at the box set, there's 2 mechs I call flankers. That would be your Shadowhawk and your Wolverine. They have decent to minor long-range fire support. They have some okay, decent fire up close and personal. So they are kind of like a jack of all trades kind of mech. They're fast. They're 5'8" movers. They have jump jets. They're able to, or not, maybe not. And you're able to maneuver around and get into the flanks. You're forcing your enemy to either retrograde back, or they're going to ignore them and hope that you know, like the AC5 and the LRM and the SRMs that you find on them are not going to do a lot of damage to you. But you want to get these two mechs, get into the flanks, shooting into the right or left flank. So if you got a mech that's sitting there that you've been hammering away with these other mechs I'm going to be talking about, and they got their armor ripped off, these guys are the ones that you want to get into that flank and just hit them constantly with your weapon system. You're going to be forcing them to either rethink about their position, falling back, maneuvering them so they can protect that flank, which in turn may force them into getting hit hard in another flank. Okay? That's the Shadowhawk and the Wolverine. Now, you're going to have some mechs that I consider in this box that fire support. Because when you're moving up, your fire support mechs are the ones that be laying down lots of like LRMs, PPCs. They can shoot at a long range across the board and hopefully are doing damage to the other mechs, because you have a Thunderbolt, Catapult, Locust, Shadowhawk, Wolverine, Commando, Battlemaster, and Awesome. Now, I look at the fire support mechs in this box. The Awesome is like, well, it's an assault mech. Okay, yeah, it's an assault mech, but it has 3 PPCs. It's a direct fire support mech, because you do not want to get this thing up close and personal, because it has minimum ranges with those PPCs. So if it gets in the range band 1 and 2, or hexes 1 and 2, it's going to be having minuses. So you can keep it farther back. Now, you probably want to move this thing up close and get up to within 6 or 7 with it all day, and you're sitting there hammering away with the PPCs and tearing armor off somebody. But it can sit back and be a fire support mech if you want to. It's a lot of tonnage to just have it way in the back of the board, but hey, it can do the job that way. Now, the other one is the Catapult. That has the 2 LRM-15s on it, but it does have 4 medium lasers, so it does have some in-close support. But with the 2 LRMs, you get a mech that's going to be sitting there with a lot of problems when it comes to sitting there if something gets in its face. So if you have a couple scouts or flankers, the best way to negate a one of those 2 mechs is just get right into their face, because you're shutting off their 2 biggest their weapon systems, forcing them to be hitting at really high modifiers. All right, and you're sitting there right in their face, doing some damage to them or getting into their flanks. So that's the 2 I kind of look at as pure fire support. The Thunderbolt can be a fire support also. It does have a large laser and an LRM-15. So it can sit there and sit in the backfield and just hammer away with that large laser and that LRM and do damage, because LRM-15 is nothing to sneeze about in that large laser. So if you're sitting there, let's say at range band or hex 14, you're at long range with the large laser, but you're going to be sitting there at a decent range with the LRM. So if you could be sitting at medium range with the LRM and doing damage pretty decently, and the large laser is like, yeah, it's a hit and miss type of thing. So you probably want to get a little closer with it. And it's one of those things where in the game, I've noticed over the years, many times, is that you get individuals that will, or any game, it seems to work out this way, is like you're at extreme range, everybody does initial fire, everybody fires, and like, oh, okay, I need 11s, 12s to hit, or not even able to hit at all. So they roll some dice. That's not working. I need to move a little closer. So they move. Each side moves 3 to 4 hex closer. So suddenly, in the course of one turn, now everybody's at extreme long range or medium range. And it's like, oh, they fire everything. Okay, now I need 10s to hit. And they're like, okay, that's not really working out. I'd rather get a little closer. So everybody moves a little closer again. So it's one of those things where everybody just keeps moving closer and closer, and then it turns into a rugby scrum where everybody's punching, kicking, and everything. Now, we just talked about punching and kicking. There's the things we call the brawlers. The brawlers are the ones that get into the face of the enemy. They have weapon systems that are used for up close and personal. Guess who those are? The Battlemaster. The Battlemaster does have a PPC, so it has something that's long range to shoot with that out there as it's moving in closer and closer. But the once it gets in within 9, it's usually flipping over to the medium lasers and that SRM-6, and that's going to be its primary weapon systems to start doing all kinds of damage. Now, we talked about the Thunderbolt as being a possible fire support. It also can fall into the role of a brawler because it does have a decent up close and personal. It has a large laser, which can shoot at hex 1. It has 3 medium lasers, which can shoot at up to 9, 1 to 9. It has an SRM-2 and 2 machine guns, which you have to be within 3 to be able to use. So once you get in close, but the nice thing about machine guns, once you're within 3, they don't cause any heat, so you might as well just use them. You could just keep hammering away at the machine guns. Yeah, okay, if you're hex 3, you're at long range with them, fine and dandy, but it's not causing any problems for you for just shooting. All you're doing is using ammo, and machine guns usually have 100 or 200 rounds, so you can shoot that thing considerably, like almost all day. Now, the Awesome can sort of be called a brawler in the aspect that you're talking about an 80-ton mech that has an open hand. So, it's like you move that thing up and you see a mech that's like 3, 4, 5 hexes away. Fire the PPCs at that one, and you're sitting right next to another mech. Punch with that thing, or kick with that thing. That's how you kind of use an Awesome as a brawler, because you have a free arm and or you can kick. And let me tell you, if somebody gets kicked with a like many times I'll see a mech that, oh, they've taken a few, let's say, PPCs to a leg, and they got an open leg with no armor on it. I'll maneuver my mech trying to get into, let's say it's got a right leg that's got no armor. I'll try to maneuver my mech into the right side with, let's say, this thing, and then kick. I'll try to kick that leg off. Alright? It's like tactical things you have to keep abreast of in the game. Alright? So it's kind of like a rundown of how you use these things. It's like, think of it as a big giant donut on the field. You're going to, or concentric circles. It's like your outer circle. It's like you're going to have these 8 mechs. You're facing off. Let's say your buddy does buy a box set. You have a box set, and you both have 8 of them. Unless you buy the beginner's box, and you get, I think there's a Griffin in that one. So you'd have 10. Okay. So both of you have your mechs, and you have your donut. Is that as you're moving closer, your donuts are going to overlap, and that's where the first overlap is going to be all your long-range weapons. It's typically the first ones that are firing are your LRMs. And as you move closer and closer, you're going to be moving your scouts and your flankers at max speed, and they're just typically, in this game, using these mechs, your flankers are not going to be doing anything until they're within 9. Because that's the longest range of these weapon systems on them. Now, your 2 flankers, your Wolverine and your Shadowhawk, do have LRM or a autocannon. So they have the ability to, within, let's say, 18, 21, of at least doing 5 to 10 points damage. All right? But they're moving as fast as they can. And the odds of them hitting typically are not so great because you're more focused on moving as fast as you can to get around, or if your opponent is looking at it, is trying to use them as a flanker. All right, you're going to intercept their scouts, because if you take your scouts and your flankers and intercept, let's say, the 2 scouting forces, the odds are that you're probably going to tear up the 2 scouts pretty quickly and either destroy them or make them disengage. All right. And while you're doing that, let's say you're doing a linebacker right or left, you're concentrating all your hit power on the right flank, and you have your 2 brawlers and your 2 fire support mechs, like your catapult, are moving up, and then they're just concentrating on one mech. You're looking at it, it's like typically I would concentrate most of my firepower on either their thunderbolt or their catapult, depending if they move it up close. And if they decide not to move their scouts or their flankers very fast, and the modifiers are equal, I'd have a tendency to, I'm going to take out the lighter mechs. Remove a mech off the board, because there's if you're new to the game, you know, there's initiative phase. All right. So with the initiative phase, if you can remove a mech or 2, that puts you in a better driver's seat, because that forces them to move mechs before you, and then you still have mechs left to move. All right. Now, towards the end, if you lose initiative, you know, you got to, if you're the last person to move, you still got to move, and they got one left to move. But it gives you a little more leadway of how you want to maneuver around, if that makes any sense yet. It probably will once you get a game or 2 in. There are just so many different things in the game. So once you start moving in closer and closer, that donut starts overlapping. So pretty soon you're going to have your medium ranges are overlapping. And it's like I said before, as you're playing, it's like, oh, I want to get better shots. I want to hit a little better. So mechs have a tendency to move closer and closer. So suddenly the medium range and your long range weapons are overlapping each other. And your long range weapons suddenly move to being in medium range, and the medium range stuff. And then eventually you're going to get weapon systems like the short range stuff, which is your SRMs, your medium lasers, which are typically you find in all these different mechs, are now able to start being used. And go back into the archives and look at some of how I described some of these mechs and how best way to use some of them. That starts working in your favor. Hopefully this kind of makes any sense. It's just how I kind of look at it. I wanted to do this, but like I said, I haven't been able to get the main box sets to do an unboxing and showing off how I'd use them. But the time will come. Eventually I'm going to see these things. And it's just like they're being sold like hotcakes. So, hey, like I need any more, I have plenty of them. It's just that, hey, they're cool new mechs. They're plastic. I want to check them out. All right. Hopefully I'm not rambling on anymore. If you have any questions, put them down below, and I'll see if I can answer them the best I can with my time I have. All right. You guys have a good one, and we will talk with you later. Helcrex out.